I'm Pastor Aaron Harris, and this is my first live stream. This is going to be a great video. We're going to have a great time together. In this, what we're going to be talking about is financial literacy. This is financial literacy explained, what everyone must know about financial literacy. Financial literacy just means you have a basic understanding of personal finances. It's a basic understanding of personal finances. And the reason that financial literacy is so important is because there are people who want your money to go into their pockets. There are people that want your money into their pocket. And people spend all day, every day trying to get your money into their pocket. For example, if you're on social media at all, then when you get ads, those are people paying money that are trying to get your resources, your finances, your money into their pocket. In addition to that, what happens is whenever you're going and you're watching TV or anything like that, what people are trying to do is they have commercials, and those commercials are trying to get you to buy something. Or most people that's in the financial field in general, what they are trying to do is they're trying to get you to get their resources, to spend your money on what they have. And so that's why it becomes extremely important for you to have financial literacy, for you to be able to know about money so that you can keep your money in your pocket and so that you can learn how to grow your money, how to invest your money so that you can do the things that you want to do. And so there's some common misconceptions about going and having financial literacy. One of the financial misconceptions is that you do not need financial literacy, that you do not need this financial knowledge. Now, some people they feel like, hey, why would I need financial literacy or why would I need financial knowledge? And they focus on making as much money as they can. And that's good. You should try to go and make absolutely as much money as you can. But at the same time, what good is it to make a ton of money if you do not know how to manage it wisely? And that's what we fall into. That's the challenge that many people have. If you have a good income and you're making a good amount of money, but you do not know how to manage it. That's why many people that make six figures a year or more are still living paycheck to paycheck. They have a decent income, a good income, but they're spending just as much money as they make. And when you live paycheck to paycheck and you spend just as much money as you make, then you really run into a problem because when you have an emergency, then you're not going to have the expenses that you need to cover that emergency. And we know that emergencies do happen. So people may ask, where do you start when it comes to financial literacy? Where is that starting place? And for me, what I would say the first thing that you need to do is you need to create a financial vision. Now, many people skip this step and they feel like, oh, I don't need a financial vision or it's really not that important. But a financial vision is absolutely everything. If you don't know where you're going, then how are you going to get there? When it comes to financial vision, I think about it like taking a road trip. How some people are like, oh, if you want a road trip, just be spontaneous, jump in the car and start driving, and eventually you'll get to your destination. And that's one way of doing road trips. But I'm like, well, did you plan for how much money you needed for that road trip? Do you know where you're going to stop and where you're going to rest and where you're going to eat and how much money it's going to take to get you there? Did you make sure the car was serviced beforehand so that you could get there and get back safely? There are a number of things that you need to do in advance to make sure that you have a successful road trip and that you're able to make it back and home safely. In the same way, when it comes to your finances, what you have to understand is that there are a number of things that you need to do to make sure that you are able to be financially successful. And it starts with a vision. Just like when you're going on a road trip, you map out where you're going to go or where you want to end up and when you want to come back. It's the same way with your financial journey, where you're marking and you're looking at where you want to go in the future. Where is it that you want to be? So once you have your vision, the way you set it up is some people are really passionate about traveling and they want to travel the world and they want to go as many places as they can, and that's just their overall goal is I want to travel the world, I want to go as many places as I can, and that is their vision. Well, if you want to travel the world, you may not want to spend all your money on a new car because that takes you away from your vision. You may not want to spend all your money on a new home because that takes you away from your vision. And so, what you need to do is the first thing is realize what is your vision. Maybe your vision is to own your dream home. And if your vision is to build or buy or remodel or own your dream home, then you have to say, okay, well, maybe this expensive vacation may take me away from owning my dream home, or this expensive car may take me away from owning this dream home that I want and this dream home that I want to live in. And so, on the flip side, some people are car enthusiasts and they just want a nice car. Now, you don't want the new nice home or the expensive vacations to get in the way of you driving that car that you've always dreamed of. And so, creating a financial vision is very important. Everyone should have it so that they know where they are going. And then, if you're in a relationship with someone, you have a significant other, then it becomes even more important for you to go out and for you to create a financial vision, because not only are you trying to see what direction you're trying to go in, but you're trying to see what direction your partner is trying to go in as well. If you have a partner that wants to travel the world and you want to buy your dream home, then you'll have conflict with one another, because every time you're getting closer and closer to your dream home, they want to take off and go somewhere. And you're like, why do you keep spending all this money on vacation when I want to get the dream home? Or someone else, they may just like clothes and shopping and jewelry. So they're going out and they're getting clothes and they're shopping and getting jewelry, where you want the resources and finances to go and travel the world. And so, one of the best things that you could do if you're in a relationship is to sit down and really have a talk of where you see yourself in the future. What are your goals? What are your plans financially? And how are you going to achieve those goals? And so, once you have a shared goals, if you're single, independent, you can go and write out your own goals that you have for yourself in the future, what goals you want to accomplish in 6 months, in 1 month, in 1 year, and 5 years. And then after that, what you want to do is you really want to look at your partner. If you have a partner, what are their goals that they have? And make sure that your goals are lined up with their goals so that you're both on the same page and you're not having fights and arguments about resources, about money, and about finances. So once you do that, it'll save you just a whole lot of fights and arguments. They say the number one reason for divorce is actually resources, it's finances, and it's fights about finances and money because people do not know how to come together and talk about money. And I believe that it's really about people not being on the same page, people having two different visions, different sets of goals, and they get frustrated with one another when they aren't able to get what they believe that they should have gotten. So, looking at it, this is important for you to go and to set your goals. When you're looking at setting your goals should be specific, meaning you know exactly what you are trying to get to. Not only should it be specific, but it should be measurable. Any goal that you set, it should be a tangible number or an amount or something that you can have. Don't just say, oh, I want to buy a boat one day. Say what type of boat you want. How much do you want to spend on that boat? Then you should make sure that your goals are attainable. Many people make goals and their goals are not attainable, meaning that they're saying, oh, I want to be a billionaire. Okay, well, what's your plan? What's your strategy? What are you doing to make sure that you become a billionaire and reach these goals? And then when you talk to them, they really have no plan and they really have no plan in mind. They're just shooting for the moon, but they have no strategic plan. They're just talking. And so we call that talking out the side of your mouth, right? And so with that, you do not want to be a person that is just talking, but instead you want to be a person that is planning, a person that is preparing, and a person that is actually getting it done. It's discouraging to say, oh, my goal is to make $1 million this year, and then you only make $40,000. You didn't get anywhere near your goal. And so that could be discouraging. And so, what you should do is you should set goals that are attainable, where you say, I know I can hit this if I really just work hard and some things fall into place. I know that I can get that number. So, not only is it specific, measurable, attainable, it's also relevant. It's relevant to your financial vision, to where you want to be financially in the future. And not only is it relevant, but then it is time bound, meaning that you will accomplish this goal within a certain amount of time. So a lot of people, they don't make sure that their goals are time bound, where they say, one day I'll get a boat, one day I'll get my dream car, one day. Instead of one day, put a time period on it. That way, when you put a time period on it, you can actually track to see if you're getting closer to your ultimate vision, whether you're getting closer to that actual goal that you have for yourself. So we want to make sure that you do that. So once you have your SMART goals, then after that, what you want to make sure is you want to make sure that you have your strategy. Your strategy is the way that you are going to achieve these goals that you have set for yourself. And so your strategy is usually your budget. Your budget is your tool for how you are going to achieve your goals. And so if you have a goal of saving $12,000 this year, well, then you set smaller goals of I need to save $1,000 a month for 12 months so I can reach $12,000. So then you have to line up your budget and see, do I need to cut expenses here? Do I need to cut expenses there? What is it that I need to do in order for me to make sure that I can save $1,000 each and every month so I can have $12,000 at the end of the year so I can buy exactly what I need. So when you have your vision and you have your goals and you have your strategy and they are working together, then they are really powerful. So that's just the first principle overview of what you should do starting off when you're looking at your vision, your strategy, your goals. That's how you should start off when it comes to your finances. Next, let's look at some basic principles of financial concepts. And so, basic principles of financial concepts. I'm going to go ahead and take a sip of water, and then we're going to dive in. Basic principles of financial concepts. The first thing is, if you want to understand financial literacy and you want to understand money, the first thing that you have to understand is income, and really get to what is your income. How much income do you actually have? And so when you're looking at income, there are really three types of ways that people get paid, or income that you can have. Either you are a W 2 employee where you work for a company or a person and you get compensated for your time or for your work. Another one is your 1099, meaning that you're self employed, or you're a contractor where you can make money by doing a service for someone and they just pay you a particular amount of money. And then the last one is that you're a business owner. And as a business owner, then that means you either have employees under you or you are self-employed. And so with that, understanding your how you make your income is important, because that's how you're going to be taxed. If you're a business owner, you get a ton of tax breaks. If you're a contractor, you get a lot of tax breaks. If you're a W 2 employee, you don't get as many tax breaks, but you still have some things that you can do that will help you with your taxes. And so you want to make sure that you are going and that you are doing all of these things and you know how your money is taxed so that you can avoid taxes. The more money you make, the more money you'll spend on taxes. And when you become a high income earner, your biggest expense will be your tax bill. You'll pay more for taxes than you'll pay for your home, for your cars, vacations, than anything else. And so the goal then is to learn what you can do, what are the IRS rules that you can go by to help you to pay less money in taxes so that you can have more money to be able to save, to be able to invest, and to be able to do all the things that you want to do. And then you have to look at your income and you have to know whether your income is fixed or is variable. Fixed means that you know exactly how much money you're getting in a given month. Fixed income is like, I know I get $1,000 a week, no matter what. I get 40 hours at my job a week. That's gonna go out to $1,000 a week, and I know I'm getting that no matter what happens. I may work overtime, it may get a little bit more, but for the most part, I get $1,000 a week. Or some people get paid bi-weekly, or some people get paid monthly, and some people get paid a salary, but most people have a general idea about how much they're going to make, and that would mean that you have more of a fixed income. Then you have some people that have more of a variable income, and that variable income means that they don't actually know how much money they're going to make. It varies from time to time and season to season. Maybe you're a contractor, or maybe you work off of commission, or you work off of tips, and it's really hard to know how much money you're going to make. when your income varies from time to time, that means you need to be a lot more cautious, a lot more careful, a lot more frugal. You have to be better at saving, and you have to have an emergency fund, because that means your income is not necessarily as consistent, so you can't easily know exactly how much money you're going to make. In addition to that, what you want to look at is you want to look at what is the reliability of your income. Some people have jobs where how much, that there's always going to be a job in that field waiting for you. We're always going to need nurses, right? You know that cops probably aren't going anywhere anytime soon. But there are other industries, just like back in the day when you had a lot of factory workers. What happened was these factory workers really these factory workers, what they did was they really were not getting paid, because they lost their jobs. Actually, my computer actually timed out, so I'm going to turn around and put my computer back on, and next time make sure I don't have that problem. But you have factory workers and they lost their jobs. When they lost their jobs, what happened was they had to find a new place to work. Recently, you see people in tech industries, how they had a ton of layoffs. And when they had these layoffs, people had to go find new jobs. And so with you have to look at how reliable is the job that you have, how reliable is the income that you have, because that impacts how you invest for your future. It impacts how much money you save and how you go about doing things financially. So, understanding your income is important. What is your income? After you understand your income, then you have to understand your expenses. What are you spending money on? And one of the biggest challenges that people have is they do not understand their expenses. They don't know where their money is going. For me personally, there was a time that I didn't understand how much money I was spending on eating out. I would just go and I would eat out all of the time without really understanding that I'm spending a whole lot of money on fast food, on eating out, instead of cooking groceries. So I probably was spending $300 more a month than I even thought that I was. But I didn't notice that until I actually went and looked at my resources and I looked at my finances. And when I looked at my finances, I looked at my bank statements, I looked at how much I was spending, then I was able to say, oh, I need to start packing some lunches, or I need to start cooking a little bit more, and I need to stop eating out 2 times a day, because this is really burning a hole in my pocket. I'm spending $50 a day on takeout, and that's more than I should be spending. And so, looking at it, I was able to make adjustments, and I was able to get that spending under control. But I wouldn't have done that if I didn't know what was going on. And so the first thing that you have to do is you have to really go look at what are your expenses. Some people may not realize how much they spend at Starbucks, or some people may not realize how much they spend on their hobby. But you should know where your money is going and make sure that you are spending reasonably, that you're spending wisely, and that you're spending in places that you actually want to spend. And so once you understand your expenses and where your money is going, then what you have to do is you really have to look into your budget. Now, like I said, your budget is really your strategy for you to be able to accomplish the goals that you have. And so when you're looking at your budget, what you're really looking at is you're looking at your spending habits, you're looking at your income and how they relate to one another. So, budgeting is really simple. The simplest way I could put it is if you make $10 and you spend $8, then you're doing good at budgeting. You made $10, you spent 8, you're doing great. On the flip side, if you make $10 and you spend $10, well, now you're paycheck to paycheck and you're really not doing great. You're surviving, you're living, but you're really not doing that good. If you make $10 and you spend $12, which a lot of people do, then that means you're really not making good financial decisions because you're making more money or you're spending more money than you're actually making, and you really have a problem with your budget. And so, people who make 10 and spend 8 are people who are wise, people who can hit financial goals and get to where they want to get to in the future because they have money to save and they have money to invest. Now, if somebody makes $10 and then you spend the $10 that you make, then if you ever fall into an emergency or anything, then you are going to be in a lot of trouble. And that's what most Americans do is we live paycheck to paycheck. And so in living paycheck to paycheck, it really does not help you to be able to reach your financial goals and what you want to do in the future because you're just spending all that you have. And then you have people that go and they make $10, they spend $12. That's because you feel like you don't make enough. There's a vacation you want to go on, there's a car you want to buy, there's a house, there's something you want to get into, and you can't afford it. So you're going to spend more for it than you actually have. And that's going to put you in a hole where month after month you are putting out more than you're taking in. A lot of people go shopping, put money on credit cards, get a mountain of credit card debt, and say, oh no, what am I going to do? So with you, I do not want you to go and do that. Instead, what I want you to do is I want you to be the wise person who gets paid 10 and only spends 8 of that 10. Now, we can make those go with bigger numbers as well. For example, if you get paid $1,000, that means you should only spend $800. If you make 1,000, spend 800, you're going to be in a good financial position. But if you make $1,000 and you spend $1,000, then you're really going to be going and living paycheck to paycheck, which is not good. And then if you make $1,000 but spend $1,200, you're really going to be in trouble. And so when people look at this, they feel like when people look at this, they feel like this is a principle that they don't struggle with or they won't do. But what I want everyone to know is that many people struggle with this. You have people making $100,000 a year, and although they're making $100,000 a year, they're actually going and they're spending $120,000 a year. So if you make 100,000, you make a good income depending on where you live. New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles may not be that much, but if you make $100,000, you're making good income. But if you're spending $120,000, then you're really putting yourself in a hole, and that's what many people do who really struggle with debt is that they're making good money, but they're just spending more than they're making. And a lot of times you do it on accident. A lot of times it's those people who plan to make $100,000, but then you spend $100,000, and then all of a sudden you have car problems, or all of a sudden there's an emergency, or all of a sudden something happens. Then when that something happens, you're trying to figure out, oh, what do I do and how do I get more money? Or let me pull out my credit card because I did not know that this thing was going to happen where I was going to need some money. But we should all know that emergencies happen. There will be emergencies that you'll have to spend resources and finances on, and you should be prepared for them in advance. So the person who makes $100,000 and spends $100,000 is paycheck to paycheck, and they're really a job loss away, or one bad thing happening away from really being in financial trouble. So you don't want to be that person. But the person who makes $100,000 net, they bring home $100,000, and they only spend 80,000 of that 100,000, and they take the other $20,000 and they save it and invest it, then this is the person that is going to get ahead financially. So budgeting is all about going and making sure that you're spending less, hopefully like 20% less than what you actually make. Now, the challenge is when we go out to buy a home, oftentimes we aren't thinking, oh, I want to have enough money to save after I go buy this home. Instead, people buy a home and they're thinking, oh, I want to buy the best, the nicest, the safest home that I can buy, which is good. I want you to have a nice home that you like, that's safe. But you can't spend so much money on your home that now you're living paycheck to paycheck. Or some people go out and they get themselves a new car. A new car is great, but you do not want to spend so much money on going to get a new car that you're actually don't have anything to be able to save and invest for your future. So you want to make sure that everything is in moderation and that you have enough money to get the things done that you want to get done and that you need to get done. So people spend money on cars, they spend money on houses, they spend money on food, right? Ordering DoorDash and Uber Eats and all of these things. And then people spend their last dimes on vacation where they feel like YOLO, you only live once. I want to go out and I have some things that I want to do, and so what happens is they go out and they're spending a lot of money on their vacations, and they're spending all that they have, or they save some money and now they're going to spend all the money that they save, or they can't afford the vacation. So they put it on a credit card just thinking, oh, I'll pay for it later, which is something that you should not do. And so when people go out and they're spending all of this money on a credit card, then what happens is they're putting themselves in debt, and they're putting themselves in a really bad financial situation. So you want to make sure that you're not buying the most expensive home that you could buy. You're not renting the most expensive place that you can afford. You're not buying the most expensive car that you could afford, but that you're doing everything in moderation, that you're able to save, that you're able to invest, and that you're able to have resources that'll help you on your financial future. So, there are many principles when it comes to budgeting that people should stay within, whereas you shouldn't spend over 35% of your income on your home, right? On your home expenses, and so there are many budgeting uh, hacks that you can have that'll help you stay within the parameters that you should stay in, so that you can be financially successful. But you just have to make sure that you're doing those things. And in addition to that, what you really want to look at is you really want to make sure that you're prioritizing your saving. When it comes to most people, what they do is they spend money first, and then after they spend money, they look at what they have left over. Instead, you shouldn't spend money and look at what you have left over. Instead, what you should do is you should save money. And after you save money, you should spend what you have left over. That way, you're making sure that you're getting those percentages. That way, you're making sure that you're saving the amount of money that you want to save. So you want to make sure that you don't have it backwards, like a lot of people have it. Like a lot of people have it backwards. And so that's what the category of budgeting. When you're budgeting, you want to prioritize saving. That's one of the main reasons that you budget, is so that you make sure that you're putting money aside for the future. Because when you don't budget, the number one thing that takes a hit is your savings. And everyone budgets. It may be a myth to think like, oh, I don't budget or I never budget. Everyone budgets in some way or another. Maybe your budget is you just check your account every month, or you have some type of system in your head where you're budgeting. But everyone uses a budget. Everyone just doesn't write down their budget. And so you don't have to write down every single thing that you spend on your budget, but you have to make sure that you are actually having a budget. Grab some water, then we'll go to our next category. So when you're saving, one thing that you should prioritize is your emergency fund. Emergency are 3 to 6 months worth of expenses that you are prepared for any emergency that may happen, so that you can go and you can take care of those expenses. Emergencies happen, and so when they happen, you should not be surprised by them, but instead you should be prepared for them, and you should already know how to handle them. So your car is going to have car trouble one day. If you own a home, you're going to have home trouble one day, right? You may have health challenges one day. So people in your family may have health challenges. So you prepare for those things in advance. So it is vital and important that you have an emergency fund. So, in addition to your emergency fund, in addition to you saving for your financial future, then what we have to look at today is also managing debt. There are many people that want to know how to manage their debt. How do you manage your debt? And so when you think about debt, some people may think of negative things or have negative associations with debt. Debt can be both negative and positive. That's why we say we have some debt that is good debt, and we have some debt that is bad debt. Good debt, simply put, some people say good debt helps to put money into your pocket, and bad debt takes money out of your pocket. Or some people say good debt are assets that you get, and then bad debt is spending your money on liabilities, which good debt is something that's helping you reach your financial vision that you have for your future. And then bad debt is something that's really taken away from you reaching your goals that you have in your financial future. So when you think about good debt, I think about debt in categories. There's there's really three main categories of debt. You have low interest rate debt, moderately high interest rate debt, and then you have high interest rate debt. Low interest rates, anything under 4%, grows at just about the rate of inflation. It is not that big. And so when you're looking at it, that is a low interest rate. And people will tell you, pay it off, pay it off, pay it off, which is great. If you could pay off that debt, that I say go ahead and pay it off, that's great. But under 40% is really moving at about the rate of inflation, average rate of inflation. And so you're really not losing that much money when you pay on that debt. Then you have debt which is from 4% to 8%, which is moderately high. And I say that's moderately high because it starts outpacing low risk investments and it starts competing with your rate of return that you will get on your regular investment. So, what I say to people, what I encourage people to do is to check your debt, see what is low interest, what is moderate interest rates, and then what are your high interest rates. Your high interest rates are anything that's above 8%. The reason that that's considered high is because most investments don't make a lot more than 8 or 10% per year on average. So when you have debt or interest rates above 8%, then it starts eating away at your profits. Some of these are like payday loans, which is a really bad form of debt. Some of these are like car loans, which are really bad, and some are credit card debt, among other things. But you should not get any really high interest rates above 8% if there's anything that you can do to help it, because then you're just paying a ton of money in interest, and it's hard to get that money back from your investments. So I would say when you're looking at whether or not something is good or bad debt. Another thing you could look at is something like a home. A home could be bad debt in terms of if you buy a home, you're over leveraged, meaning you bought too big of a house, you spent too much money on it, you really can't afford the house. If you're doing that, then what happens is you can lose everything that you have. You can go into foreclosure and you can lose that home. But on the flip side, if you get a home that you can afford, after a certain amount of years, you pay the home off, then you have a place to stay for practically free. All you have to worry about is the taxes for the space, and that is a really good situation to be in. So a home could be a really good investment. In addition to a home, when you look at a college degree can be a great investment if someone spends 20,000, if someone spends 20,000 on a college degree and then they go get a job for $80,000. Well, that's a good investment and they could pay back to $20,000. But if people go into $100,000 worth of debt and they for college and then they get out and make $40,000 a year, well, that's not a good choice because now you don't have enough to really pay your debt back, and you're gonna get killed by all of those interest payments that you're gonna have to make. And so, a home, a school loan, even a business loan. Businesses are high risk, they're really risky. Most businesses fail, but if the business succeed, it could be really successful. And so that can be a good investment, or it could be a bad investment. It just depends on who you are and your resources and your personal situation. But what you want to make sure is that you're taking care of all of your bad debt. When it comes to attacking debt and paying it off, there's really two main methods that people have. One, people can try to consolidate their debt. That has its own challenges, but it could be beneficial for some people. But one of them is a debt snowball. Some people attack their debt in a debt snowball type of way. That means what you do is you take the lowest amount of debt that you have, and you pay that off first. So if you have one debt that's $5, another debt that's $10, another debt that's $20, you pay off the $5 debt first, then the $10 debt, then the $20 debt. And that's why it's called a snowball, because it goes bigger and bigger as you're able to pay off those bigger and bigger debts. And one of the benefits of the debt snowball is it helps you build confidence, because as you're paying off debts, it make you feel like, oh, I knocked out the $5 one, I could do the $10 one. I did the $5 and $10 one, now I can do the $20 one. So it helps you build a lot of confidence. The other way that people tackle debt is through a debt avalanche. Debt avalanche is looking at not like this debt snowball, it's looking at whatever is your highest interest rate. And that's what I recommend. I recommend that you take whatever is your highest interest rate and you knock that out first. The reason you want to knock that out first is because it will save you the most money in the long run. So you pay off your high interest debt first and your low interest debt last. And so that's my recommendation for going and tackling and handling your debt. And then, even when it comes to some people ask the question, well, should I be investing or should I be tackling my debt? Well, it depends on what investments you're making, and it depends on what debt do you have, right? If you have credit card debt, that's at 24%. And then you have an investment that averages about 9% a year. Well, you're spending more money on your debt than you're making from your investment. It probably would be better to take care of that debt and then turn around and go and invest. But if the flip side is true, if you have debt that's 2% and you think you have an investment that where you're going to get 12%, then it's better for you to go and invest in that investment that's going to get 12% and not invest in the one that is not invest in the low debt that isn't going to take away that much money from you. And so that's my take on debt and what you can do to be successful with debt. And next, I really want to look into investing. When it comes to investing, what I do is I really put it into three categories. I put investing into categories just like that. I do low risk investing, moderately risky investments, and I look at high risk investments. A low risk investment is an investment that is going to make you a low risk investment is like 5% or less. And so if you have an investment that's going to make less than 5%, it's a low risk investment. That's CDs, that's money market accounts. When you that's bonds. When you put your money into these, it's not a high chance that you'll lose your money, but you probably won't gain a ton of money either. So low risk investments are good for whenever people are getting towards retirement age, or when they've built up so much money that they don't really need any more money. They just want to make sure they don't lose what they have. Then For most people, what we do is we invest in moderately risky investments. I'll take a sip of water, I'll tell you exactly what that is. So, moderately risky investments are usually investments that are diversified. So these are your index funds. Index funds are a group of stocks that are put into one package that makes it an index. So, for example, you might have 500 stocks and they put them into one fund. So when you invest in that fund, you're invested in the 500 stocks. And the benefit of that is that it actually diversifies your portfolio so that if one stock goes down, the other one should be thriving and be doing well and be doing good. And so when you're looking at it, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have some moderately risky investments. With this, most of our retirements are tied up into moderately risky investments. That's index funds and that's mutual funds. Mutual funds do something similar to index funds where they take a number of different stocks and some bonds and under other investments, and they package them all together to where you can get a good return on your investment. The marker for investing, the benchmark is usually the S&P 500, and that averages between 8 and 10% per year. So when you're investing in index funds and mutual fund, you're usually looking at getting about 8 to 10% return on investment year by year. Then you have some investments that are high risk investments. High risk investments are things like individual stocks. They're investments where you use a lot of leverage. So they can be property. If you take out a bunch of loans, you're taking out hundreds of thousands of dollars for a rental property. Well, then that becomes a high risk investment because you are highly leveraged. And so when you're looking at it, what you want to do is you want to look at these high risk investments, starting a business. Individual stocks are really risky because if the stock goes down, there goes your portfolio. Looking at other high risk investments, starting a business is high risk because a lot of businesses fail. And so a lot of times people will go and invest in individual companies, hoping that their stocks will go up or that they'll make a lot of money. But there really is no guarantee. And a lot of people have been really burnt in that way in the past. And so, with you, you just want to make sure that you know what you're doing when you're investing. Don't just allow people to invest for you. That's probably one of the biggest things that I have about financial illiteracy is that people will allow people to make other financial decisions for them and they don't know what's going on. So people will have 100,000, 500,000, $1 million invested in their retirement account and they won't even know what that retirement account is or what's in that retirement account or how much money they're making in that retirement account. They'll just trust the people who are investing for them. And so we focus really hard on how much money we make, and we always want raises and things like that. But then once we make more money, we're not checking on our retirement and seeing how that money is invested over time. So that's a challenge that I have for you is don't let other people invest for you or trust them fully with your money, but you should know what you're getting into. You should know what your investments are and what you're investing in. So, in addition to looking at your investments, whether you're low risk, like I said, if you're towards retirement age, you'll probably be more low risk. If you're in your 20s, you'll probably be more high risk. Because you could afford to take more to take more risk because you have more time to make it up. But know what you're investing in and don't let anyone scam you. And I encourage you to go learn more about the S&P 500. I have videos on the S&P 500 on this channel, and in my book Make Money Make Sense, I have a section dedicated to talking about the S&P 500, or you could do your own Google research, but you should definitely learn about that because that is our benchmark here in the USA. In addition to talking about these, one of the things that is important is making sure that you do not lose your money. Uh, a lot of people are gonna come for your money. A lot of things can happen, and you just want to make sure that you have safeguards. So, you want to make sure that you have adequate health insurance because the last thing you want to do is have something go wrong, don't have proper health coverage, and now you have a $60,000 medical bill. Then it's like all the progress you made, all the good things you were doing is really getting wiped out by this medical bill. So you want to make sure that you're properly covered with your medical bill. You want to make sure that you have life insurance. Life insurance is so important. And some people sell whole life insurance, or a lot of people sell whole life insurance where they use it as an investment tool. I don't necessarily recommend that as an investment tool because usually they have high fees, and those fees really cut into the amount of money you'll make over time. And if you just directly invested that money yourself, you'll be a lot better off than to put it with one of those companies. But term life insurance is great. It's when you go and get it for a certain amount of time. You get it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, as long as you want. And you just pay a certain amount of money every month. And you make sure you have that life insurance policy. You could get it with living benefits. Living benefits means if something ever happens to you, you're in the hospital or you're not able to work, that you can tap into those living benefits and you can benefit from them as you're still living. But if you have a family, especially if you have people that rely on your income, you want to make sure that you have life insurance so that if anything unexpected happens, that your family is taken care of and that they are good. You want to also make sure that your properties are good. You want to make sure that you have a trust if you own property or you have valuables, to make sure that your resources go to where you want them to go, and to make sure that the government doesn't take all of your money with probate. When people fight after money and try to get money, then a lot of the crazy things happen. They go to court and all your money is taken by the court system. So you don't want to do that. So, looking at a review for this, what we said was financial literacy is important. It will change the trajectory of your life, even if you got an extra 1% or 2% on your investments, or you avoided a 2% fee on your investments that you're making. Over time, that could save you over $100,000, right? Just having that little piece of information, just spending $800 a month instead of, or $800 every time you get $1,000 instead of spending $1,000, can be the difference between you being broke when you retire or you being a millionaire when you retire. So you just have to make sure that you're making wise decisions with your budgeting. You should be saving at least 20% of your income, and you should make sure that you are tackling your debt. Don't get yourself in any high risk or high interest rate debt. Don't do that, because that's just going to put you in a really bad situation. So you do not want to get really high interest rate debt. Stay away from those credit cards. If you don't have an emergency fund where you could easily pay those off and you have a lot of money in the bank, to stay away from them, because credit card companies, they just want you to spend, and they tell you, oh, we'll give you vacation and rewards and all this, because they know one day you're going to have an emergency, and if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you'll rely on your credit card, and they're going to put you in the hole, and it's going to be hard for you to ever come back from that. So be careful with that debt. Make sure that you're making wise investments, that you're putting your investments in moderately risky investments, that you're making sure that you're getting good growth, but you're not too risky, because I don't want you to lose all that you have. And make sure you have adequate coverage for protections for yourself, whether it's car insurance, whether it's life insurance, whether it's health insurance. Make sure that you are insured in a case of emergencies. If you enjoyed this video, then what I want you to do is watch the other videos on my channel, which are all about financial literacy. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, and comment, and I'll reach back out to you. Catch you later.